Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Lance Bradley. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Ospreys. We're not expecting any fire alarms or anything else this afternoon. So if the alarm does go off, it's real. There's fire exits. I feel like a airline host at the moment, but there's fire exits over here and over here. But essentially, if the alarm does go off, try and keep up with me. Okay, so and then we'll all be okay. So lovely to see so many of you here today. Thank you for coming in. I've been here 5 weeks, I think, now. Prior to that, I was at Gloucester Rugby, so I know a little bit about what it takes to run a rugby club. And when my friend said to me, "Sorry, you're going into Welsh rugby? Are you mad?" I don't think I am mad. I knew exactly what I was going into. I think Ospreys is a fantastic club with a lot of opportunity, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in Welsh rugby, especially with the new management that's in place there. So I think there's a lot that we can do, but I think there's a lot to be positive about. And one of but there are quite a few things that we need to sort out as a club. And one of the biggest things that we need to sort out is where we play. You know, this is a fantastic stadium. The Swansea.com stadium is really is an amazing stadium. It's just much too big for us. And when I went to see the guys that run Swansea City in my third day, I think it was, and I went to talk to them and said, "Look, we're never going to break any contracts with you." But Andy actually finished my sentence and said, "But the stadium's too busy for you and you want to move out." And I said, "Well, yeah, actually, we do." So that was a really positive meeting, and our relationship with Swansea City is very good. But the reason that we need to look at moving out, and people have said to me, "Oh, you lack ambition. You should try to sell out a 20,000 seat stadium." It's not a lack of ambition. It has to be a sense of reality. You know, there's one team in Great Britain that ever gets 20,000 people, and that's Leicester. Harlequins get it when they go to Twickenham, but it's just unrealistic for us to sell out this kind of stadium. And even if we could, we don't get any of the food and beverage money. We can't do any of the outside events. Can't do any conferencing. Can't do anything on a non-match day. Can't get stadium sponsorship because it's not our stadium. Can't do things like a clubhouse type environment. Not our stadium. So we need to look at where do we want to play and where do we want to go. And I haven't publicly spoken about any of the options that we've got, and quite deliberately so. But there's been a lot of speculation about and there's some obvious candidates about where we might go. And I published the criteria that we would use to decide where we went. And one of those criteria was where our fans wanted to go. So that's kind of a big thing today for me to listen to what you're thinking and why you're thinking it. Just to put it into perspective, we've got a group. I think it was about 300 people said that they were going to come today. 92% of you are season ticket holders. So you come to pretty much all the games and you're pretty committed to the club, so thank you for that, we appreciate that. 50% of you are from Swansea, so I won't be surprised if there's half the crowd says, "Oh, you've got to say it's Swansea," because I understand that's convenient. About 10% are from Bridgend, about 10% are from Neath, and the other 30% are kind of spread around the area. So I just wanted to put that in context so that when you hear people talking, there will be a lot of people talking about Swansea, I'm sure, but also hopefully some of the other options too. So what did we look for when we were looking for a site? Well, one of the things that we looked at straight away, one of the first things we considered is, do we want to use an existing facility, or do we want to find a greenfield or a brownfield site and build a new stadium there? And I have to manage everybody's expectations here. We're losing millions of pounds a year, so when we move stadium, you need to be more looking at what the Hive Stadium in Edinburgh is like than, say, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, if you know what I'm saying. But you can have a fantastic stadium done in a relatively modest kind of way, because there are things that I think are more important than the all singing, all dancing that Tottenham Hotspur had. So we looked at, do we build something completely new? There's a couple of disadvantages of that. One of them is it's really expensive to do that, because you haven't got anything that you can start with. And it's not only expensive, but you have to do it all at once. Pretty much you have to do it all at once, because there's nothing there, so you've got to put it all in. The other disadvantage of it is that most brownfield sites don't have anything around them. So people have said to me, why don't you go out to where the old Ford plant was in Port Talbot, or a couple of other potential sites. But you've got to have some kind of transport infrastructure. Ideally, you've got to have pubs that are nearby and things for fans to do on a match day. And so that kind of ruled out a brownfield site. So we've been looking at how can we work with existing facilities in a stadium that already exists. So we've looked at a number of sites. 3 of them you'll be able to guess. 1 or 2 of the others you probably not so much. And they've each got advantages and disadvantages. So I went to the Knoll in the first week that I was here to watch our under 18s game. I thought it was a great stadium. There's quite a lot needs doing to it to bring it up to the standard that we would need, but that's kind of the same for all of the places that we've looked at. In terms of what else would we be able to do there, with the crowds that we're getting, and those of you that follow me on Twitter might have noticed that I've been talking about why do we get the crowds that we do, which I think is a relatively low level. And that's nothing to do with you guys. You guys are great, and as I say, thank you for coming. I just wish there was twice as many of you. So how do we do that? And it looks like the sums are not going to add up if we're just relying on match day, because it doesn't seem to be enough interest in the Ospreys themselves to make the club viable. And I know people say, but if it was different, more people would come, and maybe they would, but some of the reasons that I've heard for not coming, somebody said to me, well, I'd come if we won even 60% of our games. We won 62% of our games this season. But not home games. We've won 86% of our home games this season. I'd come if there was more internationals playing. We've had 14 Wales internationals. And there always seems to be, somebody actually said to me, I'd come, but you always play on a Friday or a Saturday or sometimes on a Sunday. Yeah, we do. Yeah. So I'm kind of wanting to see what the demand is, and I'm slightly struggling to see that the demand on a match day is enough to make it worthwhile, or to make it viable. Sorry. So we've got to look at what else can we do, and I mentioned some of it. So here there's a lot of conferencing, and there's a stadium sponsor, and all of those kind of things. So if you can look at what else you do, that's quite a big part of the business. And you'll know that I was at Gloucester. Gloucester used to get about £1 million of conferencing business each year. That makes a really big difference. And I'm not saying that we replicate that here. Gloucester's positioned close to the middle of the UK, and we're not. But you get something, and that's the point. So I think we need to look at what else we can do, not just the match day bits. So the Knoll, I thought was it was a nice stadium. I had a good meeting with the management. I went back a week or so afterwards. There's been a little bit of space out the back where there's some other stuff that you could do. So that was interesting. Not sure what the non-match day opportunity is. Brewery Field is another one that we've looked at. I hadn't started by the time we played the New Year's Day game there, so I watched it on TV. Well, I watched most of it on TV, I should say. And I thought it looked fantastic. It's some of you may have read my stepfather was Welsh, so I used to watch Welsh rugby back in the kind of 70s and 80s. That's what it was like. That's what my memory of Welsh rugby was like, kind of a mud bath and everybody getting stuck in and losing at half time and then coming on and coming back in second half. So I think that's a lovely rugby ground. It needs some work doing to it, but as I say, all of the options that we're looking at need some work doing to it. And again, I've had meetings with the management there and some of the local council people there, and of course they're keen for us to move to there. Everybody's keen for us to move there. So that's one of the other ones that we've looked at. There wouldn't really be any building work need doing at Brewery Field. There's already hospitality boxes. There's already some hospitality lounges. You'd probably want to do a bit more. We'd want to try a few like fan zone type things, and some of those we're trying at the game that we're playing against Sale there. And one of the reasons that we're going to Brewery Field for that game is to try those things to see what it's like. Again, similar challenge to the Knoll. There's not a lot of space around it. There's less space around the Brewery Field than there is at the Knoll. So a limited amount that you could do on non-match days, but not so much that you need to do in order to be able to move in there. So that's still a possibility. And then the other one that people have been speculating about, and that of course we've looked at, is St Helens. St Helens is a lovely site, fantastic location. Lots more that you could do there. One of the other things that I would quite like to do, I'd quite like to have the training facilities on the same site as the stadium and the commercial offices. That was something again that we did at Gloucester, and it transformed the club, moving the training from Hartpury, where it was. Hartpury's a university about 5 miles from Gloucester, moving it into a warehouse literally next door to Kingstone, building state-of-the-art facilities in there, and it meant suddenly that all of the players and all of the playing staff were all on the same site, and that worked really well to have everybody there as one club, and we always refer to it as the one club culture, and it would be great to be able to replicate that there. At St Helens you could probably do that, so there's probably space to be able to do that kind of thing. There's space for quite big fan zone type areas. It's clearly a beautiful location. You could do non-match day things there, like, it would be a fantastic site for a hotel, for example. And I know that Swansea doesn't have enough hotels, and there's been studies done about what sort of hotels are needed and the revenue opportunities and what have you. So there are all of those opportunities there. The challenge with it is that the existing facilities aren't enough for us to move into. So there would be a much higher outlay to go to St Helens than to either of the other two options that we talked about. And there's one or two other options that I've been talking about that are not public, and actually, even though there's been a massive amount of speculation, nobody's really talked about them. So I'll keep those confidential for now. I was interested to read a number of people on Twitter saying, well, I know where they're going. It's definitely here, and it's definitely there, and it's definitely going to be this. We haven't decided where we're going. What we're doing, because I said, apart from anything else, that I would listen to you guys, and we're not going to make a decision until we've done that. And this won't be the only opportunity for me to listen to people. There'll be others as well. But we're going through the numbers now. I'm going through it with Chris, who's our finance guy, a 5-year plan for each of the sites, so that we can see which one we think will be the most viable for us. Because we do have to make the sums add up. I've heard people talking about, well, the money men are all from Swansea, so it's definitely going to be in Swansea. The money men are not putting any money into this. This is going to be a self-financing project. So it will be based on where we think the best business case will be, and also on the other things that I said, to environmental issues, what you guys think. Transport links, I know it's an issue, and the other things that I've published. So that's kind of where we are with with it. The other things that I'm obviously quite aware of, there's 250,000 people live in Swansea, and less than that in the other two places that we've been particularly looking at. I'm aware of that, but it isn't just about population, it's about what percentage of that population is inclined to come and watch top flight rugby. And we've got some research going on into that to help us make a decision on that. Here we do 250,000 people, but we also have a championship football club, and that attracts a proportion of that population, which means that they don't go and watch rugby. So it's not quite as simple as that's the population, so that's what the opportunity is. That's not quite what happens. So that's where we are with the options that we've potentially got. So does anybody from Swansea want to say anything other than it should be St Helens, and anybody from Neath want to say anything other than it should be the Narrow, and for those of you from the Gen, anything other than the Brewery Field? The gentleman there.
Hi, thank you. Just to give you some background, I originally come from Swansea, but I now live 100 miles away, but I'm still a season ticket holder. What matters most to me is the view from the seat where I have my season ticket. And at the moment, we're in the East Stand on the halfway line in the back row, and you get a great panoramic view of the pitch. When we were given our ticket for Brewery Field, has it gone off? Yeah, we were given a ticket in between the 22 and the goal line, and you couldn't see some of the pitch because the dugouts were in the way. And to me, the view from my seat matters more than the location of the stadium.
Thank you. So can we talk about, for those in here, the view from the seat matters more than the location of the stadium? Yeah, and I get that. Wherever we go, it needs to be a good stadium that generates a good atmosphere. And I did say, neither the Knoll nor the Brewery Field are currently at the standard that we would want as an ongoing basis. I think there's, is it 800 seats at the Brewery Field, something like that? That's not enough. So 1,200. Okay, but not enough. We're putting a few more in for the game against Sale, but none of them are perfect at the moment, so all of them require some investment. And I know that we want to have more seating and higher quality seating. So, good point, I recognise that. I think the lady here was next.
Could you tell us what the facilities for the disabled are going to be at any of these stadiums, even if it's just on the run-up to getting the stadium up to standard? Because, like the gentleman said, we're season ticket holders, and we were put in the conservatory for the last game, my daughter and myself. We couldn't even see the furthest end of the pitch. There was a cameraman in front of us, and unfortunately the team had to warm up, which I can understand that, but we've seen hardly anything of the game. And when we're in this conservatory, you can see the vehicle that my daughter uses to get in and out, with others trying to move when they needed the facilities of the toilet, and then to be put in what can only describe as a living hell for the toilets, to try and get one of those with a carer in. Yeah. These facilities have to be addressed before we go anywhere, even if it's only temporary.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of the issues from the Cardiff game. As many of those as we can will be addressed for the Sale game. It's a lower level league ground, and there's lots of things that need to be done to bring it up to the standard that we want for disabled people, for people who are not disabled. So I recognise that. I actually had a message from, is it Justin from the Ospreys supporters? One of them. Jason? Right, and actually what I'm going to do is invite a number of our disabled supporters to come and talk to us about what they like before we go, because we've kind of got a blank sheet of paper, because none of the options that we're looking at have what we would consider to be appropriate facilities at the moment. And I don't want to assume that I know what your daughter or anybody else needs. So we'll get another small group than this to talk about it. We may not be able to do it all, but we can at least try. And if we understand what you would like, your daughter would like, just a much better chance of doing that.
What are the parking facilities around these stadiums?
It varies. There's the car park at the rec at Swansea. There's the multi-storey by the Knoll. Brewery Field is more limited. There's Tesco out the back, but that's not always available. But that's one of the things that we need to look at, and also have a look at whether from a, it needs to be convenient for fans, but from an environmental point of view, do we want to have a place where 1,000 cars can park, or do we want to make it easy for people to use public transport to get to the ground? And sometimes that might be a better option to be able to do that. But the transport links, including for cars and for public transport and whatever else we may be able to do, is part of the discussions. I'm also aware that people say, the Mumbles Road's really busy. I know that. We have to find a solution to that.
No bias. I grew up in Talbot. I sported Neath as a kid, and I live in Swansea now. There's got to be. Have you taken any consideration into the fact that there are people who've been used for how many years travelling a short travel distance? And by the way, I agree. Any centralisation of the region, if it's in Neath or Talbot, but don't you think that 32 miles for some people, 64-mile round trip with children in the night will be a bit of a challenge?
I'm aware of that, but we have to look at all the options, and by looking at all the options, that's literally what we're doing, and I expect that there'll be one of them that comes out on top for one of the aspects, there'll be another one that comes out on top for one of the other aspects, and the other one will come out on top for some of the other aspects. So, and then we'll have to make a call on that. But I've said right from the start that the opinion of our fans is one of the key parts of our decision making, and I quite recognise that there's a lot of people who were able to make it here today and who regularly turn up and support the club, and I don't want to make it worse for them. So I do recognise that.
Good afternoon and welcome to Swansea.
Thank you.
And in fact, welcome to Australia.
Thank you very much.
I just wondered, it's a very quick question around disabled access. Disabled access also depends on people having a short distance to walk and safe parking for whoever is driving the people to the stadium. I don't think I will be able to go to the Sale match because I will have, after 8 o'clock at night, to walk to wherever I can park my car. So I haven't got any tickets. And although I've been offered tickets by Ospreys, I probably will not take them up. Thank you.
I'm sorry that it's difficult for you and for a number of other people. Wherever we go on a permanent basis, there will be better than that. The challenge that we've got is it's really hard to do it for a short term, for a one-off game, effectively.
If the answer to my question is already out there, I do apologise. I have had a look and I can't find it anywhere. It's regarding the new owners of the club, Y11. 2 questions. 1, how much money have they actually invested in the club? And secondly, how much more money are they actually going to put in? What sort of war chest have they sort of promised you that you're going to have? Oh, and secondly, thank you very much for responding to my letter by email. You might regret me having your email address. That's the only thing I can say.
Well, just to pick up on that last point first, you can all have my email address if you want. It's lance.bradley@ospreysrugby.com. So I want to engage with fans. So I'm always, I can't answer ticket inquiries.
No, sorry.
For things that people want to talk to the CEO about, I actually think it's important that's easy to do, and that's why I want to do things like today. And we've got a series of fan events planned so that we can keep doing that. In terms of what have Y11 put in and how much more they're going to put in, this is a club that's losing £1 million a year, and Y11 are keeping it going. So their ambitions, and I spent a long time talking to the Y11 guys before I agreed to take this job about what are we trying to do here, because if it's just survive, that's I don't want to do that. I want to be part of a club that becomes very successful, and I'm not going to define what that success is, because the first part of the success is to stop losing as much money as we are, to maintain and improve where we are on the pitch, and that's challenging. We all know that the salary cap's going down next year. but you will have also seen that a lot of players are re-signing. So I think we're going to have at least as good a squad next year as we've got this year, because the players believe in what we're doing too. So the big thing is to move stadium, because I can't pull any of the levers that need pulling to improve the financial sustainability of the club whilst we're here. There just aren't enough levers to pull. So if we move somewhere else, then we've got a chance of getting towards financial stability, and potentially, if we do get better crowds, that could happen quicker than we think. So there isn't a number. They haven't got a war chest. They haven't specified what we need. What they've said is, look, you tell us what you need, and if it looks reasonable, we'll do it. So, and I'd much rather work with that, because we're pulling together, as I say, the 5-year business plans for each of the key options that we've got. If there's a gap, and there might not be, but if there's a gap, then that's what I have to go and talk to Y11 about. But my aim is to get it so that by the end of 5 years, there isn't a gap, and I can show a business case for doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Lance, just for me. Obviously, you're going to move. We're going to move to another stadium. That's fine. So my question is that just a sort of short to medium term goal with a long term vision of going to our own stadium, building a stadium of our own? And secondly, on that point, if you do go in and go to Swansea, Neath or Bridgend, my concern as a rugby fan is what would be the impact on that club that you move into, where Ospreys would possibly take over? What would happen to Swansea, Neath or Bridgend as they currently run?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And one of the things that we really want to be, we want to be good neighbours. So we want to be, sorry, there's quite a few people down the front here that have been, we want to be good neighbours. So anybody that we end up round sharing, or whatever we end up calling it, that they have to be important too. We're not cookies. We're not going to go in and there are things that we're going to want to do that EBC or whatever club doesn't want to do and doesn't need to do, and will need to do that. And we will need to have primacy of tenancy. So we will need to be able to say, these are our fixtures. I don't want to have to move our New Year's Day fixture because there's an EDC game on. So we will, but it's quite easy to work with clubs, and the advantages of having us in a stadium where we're putting in much better facilities than are currently in place at any of those grounds should be a positive thing for the club involved, if that's the case, what it does. So the aim is always to be good neighbours, and actually even with the clubs that we don't end up sharing a ground with, we still want to be good neighbours with them. So we still want to promote rugby in this area, and that means being, as I keep repeating it, but good neighbours to everybody, including the club that we're sharing with.
And that would be a permanent move then. It would be long term.
I only want to move once. So, because it's going to take quite a lot of investment. So I only really want to move once if we can.
Good afternoon to you. My background is construction and development work. I was interested. Yes. Well, I was interested to read your comments. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like at all. I saw the original plans that were taken to Swansea City for the St Helens ground. Your timescale seems to preclude us going there if you want to get there after the season next, and it would cost.
It doesn't.
Well, that's not my view. And the cost of 10 million would also seem quite difficult for that, particularly the changing rooms in the corner and the facilities, even if you did it in stages. I won't go to the brewery field. I played on those fields when I was 18. I'm 76 now. I don't want to go and regress to that sort of club. I don't think the demography for the area suits us. It's you'd have 3 regional teams within a period of within a distance of 30 miles. I don't think the hospitality here was very, very good when it started. I accept what you say about the football club, but the hospitality was really good. This bank here was full until, unfortunately, we held on to some really bad coaches for a period of time. The rugby went down. We moved over to the other side because we were coming and there was nobody sitting alongside us and losing the atmosphere. So I think that there is the ability to get more than 8,000 to us. In the Leicester game, we filled the ground. You obviously didn't know that.
I don't think we did.
Well, I remember them having to open the stand down there, and tickets were very difficult to come by. The Knoll, I'd be quite happy to move to the Knoll. I think it's the centre of our region. I think it could be upgraded. I think the playing field at the back could be utilised. Whether you would get whether there's enough business people in the area to fulfil your ambitions there, I'm not sure. But for myself and for 100% of the people I've spoken to, nobody wants to go to Bridgend.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your comments. But the plans that we've got for St Helens, we think are affordable. And we think we can do it in phases. I don't think our plans don't rule out any of the 3 grounds that we've mentioned so far. But I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Before the last gentleman spoke, I'm from Bridgend, but it doesn't affect. I possibly agree with him. I live in Bridgend. If you did move to Bridgend, you still get 8,000. You only have 1,000 seated and 7,000 standing. Now,
well, you wouldn't. I tried to say that each of the grounds would need work doing.
Yeah, but
we need to have better disabled facilities.
But is it chicken and egg? Would you have to build it all first before we can actually move in there and stay here?
Specifically for Bridgend?
Yeah, specifically for Bridgend, or say the Knoll, their stand got similar problems. I think
there's some work that you'd have to do before you could move into any of the 3 stadiums that I've mentioned.
Yeah, because a gentleman I go with, he refused to go to Bridgend because we had a bronze ticket and we couldn't even be allowed to go in the stand to start with, and he didn't want to stand 2 hours before the match and stand. And I went to that game, and you virtually can't see from the terrace really. If there's big people, if you get there 2 hours before and you stand against the stanchion, you can't really move from there because you won't get back there when it's packed. It's great to see it, and I think it's great to have 8,000 close to the ground wherever we go. The Scarlets and the Dragons, but the crowd really helped them win, because I've been 3 times, I think, the Dragons away, and we've lost every time.
All of the grounds that we're looking at will need some work doing to them, and it needs to be, a great experience. That's what's going to make people come and keep coming back. So I completely recognise your points and agree with them.
Thanks, Lance. It's very much on the same sort of thing. I mean, we are a West Wales region. I think when it comes to Bridgend, unless your geography is very faulty, it's not West Wales. I mean, I had a similar experience at the New Year's Day game, and will never enter that stadium ever again. I mean, you could not see the pitch. You're sitting.
That was partly the rain, though.
No. I'm vertically challenged. If I stood up, you'd see. But I could just see the game right in front of me and a little bit to the side. Like the gentleman who had the opening question, matters to me to actually see the game. Yeah. Like him, I travel an awfully long way. I can't come to the Sale game because of the time of kick-off. If I travelled to that, it would be midnight, 12:30 when I got home. It's just not on. So I've not bought a ticket, and I'd have been disinclined just on the view. The other point I'd like to make is, what I don't want to see happen through any of this is that the Ospreys cease to be the Ospreys, a region. Because what really bothers me, and I tried to raise this in a meeting that took place in Neath a few months ago, and people didn't seem to be getting my point. If you go to one of these grounds, do we become a rehashed version of Swansea, Neath, Bridgend or whatever? Because quite frankly, the Ospreys are the only regional team in Wales. None of the others have ever been anything other than Newport, Cardiff and Llanelli. We are the only region, and you can see there are people in the room here who support all different teams, who support the Ospreys. That's me. I've got no connection to Swansea. I've got no connection to Neath, which were the two main teams that created it. But I've supported from the start. Okay, when initially I couldn't come very much because I was working, and the games are often at funny times that don't help. And you can't do anything about that. It's to do with the television, and we need the money. I think everybody in the room understands it. But yeah, that would be my fear, that we didn't end up becoming a sort of a rehashed Swansea, a rehashed Neath, or a rehashed Bridgend. And as I say, I think you've got to take Bridgend off the table because it's not West Wales. We're a West Wales region, and that's it. And I'm sorry to the guys from Bridgend in the room here, but I think that's the truth of it.
And I appreciate your view, and you made some really good points there. I understand those. One of the other things that I would just point out is that we're currently talking in detail to 3 different options. Whenever you're negotiating something, you always want to have as many options as you can.
Well, I've been sat here and I've been wondering, I thought that one of your options might have been Ashley Road, because I do believe the university have got a place there. And I thought maybe it would be a good option. There's room for parking. It's in Swansea. It's close to, obviously, Neath and Swansea, where the region started. And I just thought it would be a good idea to start there. Have you looked at those possibilities?
No, and to be honest, I don't know where Ashley Road is. Is that one of the...
It's the uni on there.
Okay. Okay.
How does that actually start?
I didn't know it's what Ashley Road. We have been talking to the university. I was there last week, and obviously, if we're, my experience at Gloucester, we work really closely with the Hartbury University, and there's loads of advantages to that in all sorts of ways, with women's teams, sports technology, loads and loads of things. So I'm quite aware of that relationship. So we have been talking to Swansea University, not specifically about the cycling magic. Well, they support us as well. So it's, we're talking about there's lots of benefits to working with the university, not just the money, and we are looking to. Probably not. Probably not, because I think St Helens is probably, for 2 such close sites, St Helens is probably a stronger one. But I know what you mean. And it may be that we use some of those facilities sometimes.
At the moment, we've got a first-class stadium and a first-class team. The options that are being discussed seem to take us back. Having watched the Cardiff game, it was excellent. It was an exciting game, but it was a one-off. The pitch didn't stand up to the punishment it was getting because of the weather.
I didn't notice that. You're right, yeah.
And I guess it would be good to hear from you that there's money, if we do go to one of the options, that there's money to upgrade the facilities, but also the pitch, so that so the team has got a playing surface that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3 of the sites that I've talked about today would need a new pitch in order to be able to stand up to what we expect will happen on that pitch. You can't, Brewery Field's, it's kind of okay for a one-off. If we're going to be there, we have to look at it. And actually, that's to say that at St Helens or at the Knoll. So part of the 5-year business plan that we're putting together includes the pitch.
We were never allowed to play on this pitch for any tournaments or nothing. So will the move to the new stadium have a 4G or an all-weather pitch? And will it be available as a revenue income to the junior districts? They are the supporters of the future. And if we could have more of that, bringing people in to our new home, wherever it may be, the parents come with them. For every child, there's 2 parents and grandparents. And the fact that we were denied, and it wasn't down to the Ospreys, it was purely down to the stadium. The fact that we were denied left a bad taste in lots of people's mouths. And we tried for 6 years before we could get an under-8s festival out here.
Wherever we go, there probably will be either a 3G or a 4G pitch. And one of the things that we want to do, we want to be the hub of the community. So we want to be the hub of the community for people, for fans, for local businesses and for local clubs as well. And some of that will mean, there's a perception that a 3G or a 4G pitch, you can use it for anything as much as you want. And that's not quite the case. But one of the things that we would really like to do is to be able to hold finals of club under-8s or school competitions or whatever, because it should be the place that everybody around this area looks at and thinks, that's the best rugby stadium in this area. God, I'd love to play there one day. And even if you're 8, I was up at Carmarthen on Wednesday night, I think it was. Can't remember the days drifting too well.
Yep.
And there were 100 little kids there, unbelievably excited because Dan Edwards was signing his new contract with them. It was absolute pandemonium. That's what I'd like to do at our stadium. It's lovely going out to the clubs in the area, but absolutely I want to do that in our stadium.
Hi Lance, welcome to Welsh Rugby, where it seems we can never forgive nor forget from some of the comments this evening.
Thank you.
Obviously you mentioned about Gloucester and Hartpury, and I think that's something that works really, really well. And we've obviously got a raft of young, talented players coming through. Obviously, I'm quite keen that any move that we do make, we continue that. So with the gentleman who mentioned Ashley Road, I know we've got Mike Ruddock, who's involved with the universities and things. I'm obviously quite keen that any move that we have continues that. I agree with some of the guys about Bridgend. I have to be honest, I'm quite spoiled with where I live right now. I live approximately 2 minutes away from the stadium. So wherever I go, as much as I'd love to have Osprey Fest in the back garden, I don't think my fellow St Thomas people would probably appreciate that. Or the guy who lives 2 doors down, who is a Swansea City fan. We can tell because he's painted the front of his house black and white. But I'm obviously quite keen for that to continue. I'll support, I'll go wherever the region goes. I'm not that tribal in that I can't move beyond what happened 20 years ago. But are we doing more to ensure?
It's refreshing to hear because we have to move beyond that. It's 20 years ago. And when we look at people and the reaction that we get, there's a real big difference in attitude between people who are over 25 and people who are under 25. And that's that's quite interesting to know. But it is our job to keep talking to people and try to persuade people that we are representing the whole area, and that's certainly what we want to do.
First of all, a couple of comments, then a quick question. First of all, say thank you. Thank you for engaging, and thank you for being so positive and open with us. You've had a lot of challenging questions, and it's really nice and refreshing to see you deal with them and being as open with us as you can. You've not necessarily got many thank yous, so first of all, a thank you.
Thank you very much.
Secondly, just a couple of quick comments. Completely agree. We can't go on like this, ever dwindling numbers in a massive stadium where we're not getting any income from outside of that. We have to do something. Anyone who can't see that, I think, is not really looking at the situation we're in. Thirdly, I disagree with a lot of some chap down the front who was very anti going to Bridgend. I disagree with a lot of what he said. I live in Bristol. So I have no skin in this game. It's a long way for me, regardless of where we go. I think, but I do agree with him in that I think one of the proudest things we can say as a region is that we have embraced the one true region, and we should put petty factionalism aside, and it shouldn't preclude going to Bridgend or to Neath or Swansea or anywhere. some are going to be more convenient than others for different people. We should all get behind the region, and I will come wherever you go.
Thank you.
Now, my question, which might be a bit niche, sorry. So you've said a lot of the issues with not getting income from here, non-match day income, is because we don't own the stadium. But it sounds like all the options you're talking about is a tenancy situation anyway. Is that? And then we would get the income from the other things. Because obviously we'd be ploughing presumably a lot of money into upgrading the facilities, and we would then make sure that we're getting financial return from that. That'll help us in the future.
Wherever we go, we want to have a primacy of tenancy, so that we may not own the stadium, but we may not own the land. It might be leased or it might be rent, but that we would have primacy so that we could get the non-match day revenue. We have to have non-match day revenue.
My question is about then the supporters, and would you look then to build us, somewhere for us then to meet? Would that be part of like the future of our new ground? We have like a good place for us to have like a good get together and everything, and for the supporters club then to meet
on game day, or
and to hold any events and everything, away games, have those kind of things going on. They do at Cardiff, they do lots of other places.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Rugby Club does, and on match day we would plan to have, I'll call it a fan zone, whatever you want to call it, so somewhere where, what we need to get to is for you to come along and have a great time, even if we don't win. And I've said to Toby, you're part of that to make sure that bit never happens. And I think he agreed. He said something. It wasn't. I won't repeat it. But you need to come along and for it to be an afternoon or an evening of proper entertainment, part of which is the rugby match. And the rugby's always going to be the most important thing, but there needs to be other things too. So we would definitely plan to have that. Regarding meeting on non-match days, ideally we would have some facilities where people could, do conferencing or other meetings or whatever it might look like. So somewhere, I think it sums it up best to say we want to be the hub of the community. That's what we're aiming to do.
So you've just touched on community, and there's been a brief mention of community and feeder club before this. Some years ago, I, through work, crossed over with Ospreys in the community and the development of the Ospreys wheelchair rugby. And I'm curious to know how the plans for the move to potentially another county would impact the work of Ospreys in the community in the region of Australia.
There won't be a negative impact of it because we won't allow there to be a negative impact. But Ospreys in the community already work in Neath and in Bridgend anyway. So, and obviously around this area as well. So our plans for Ospreys in the community, and I was with Tom last week, I think Tom's here somewhere.
Just left.
Just left, so, right. That's because you did this question. But we're setting ourselves a plan to double the amount of work that we do. So that will mean even more work across the whole area, not just here, not just in wherever we're doing it at the moment, but to grow what we're already doing. So it may impact on it, but it won't be negatively, it'll be positively.
You pointed out on Twitter this week about Cardiff are getting a bigger attendance for an island-related fixture, and we're getting much smaller attendance. If you look at Cardiff and Newport, one of the reasons why they're selling out is their location. Their stadium's in the middle of a city centre, and it's easy to walk to pubs, restaurants, and everything where fans can mingle before games and after games. Here you haven't really got that. You've got to drive. You've got no option of trains. Bus options are very limited here. So one of the best options I think for that is Neath. You've got a lot of pubs and restaurants that are in the town centre. So the supporters club can mix and mingle in them. A lot of the businesses would probably be willing to host hospitality type packages. And in and around the north, you've also got the cricket club. Glamorgan County Cricket Club are trying to play there as much as they can. They're playing 2 games there this year. You can mix with Glamorgan and Neath Cricket Club, and potentially again there's more options for hospitality there. The land that the leisure centre once stood on, that can be used for sporting purposes, which is what Neath Council want it for. So that could be a car park, which that negates the problem with the commercial trucks to be able to broadcast.
It's all overcomable.
And you've also got a tennis club also there, which you've got a very good sporting culture in that little bit of area, which you can do a lot with. So we really need an area that's got all them links, but not only that, Neath is right in the middle of the region. You are not getting any more central.
And that's why, of the three that we've been talking about today, none of them have been ruled in or ruled out, because there's advantages to all of them, and you've explained some of the ones in Neath very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance, and thank you for speaking to us. As the last one, you want a brilliant one. I listened to the Politics Wales today. I was listening to T.C. Davis talking about the money they're going to put into Port Talbot. And this only came to me this morning, literally. Aberavon, the Wizards, are fairly local. They seem to have a ground that's got 8,000 capacity, I believe. There is enormous amounts of open land, as people will know, around that area. Now is a good time, if you're talking about a multifaceted organisation, which I think you are, something that earns money in other ways other than just playing rugby. Maybe that is a good place to help regenerate Port Talbot, help those people there, and give us a bloody good stadium.
Yeah, I was with Andrew Vaughan on Friday morning. He said he would love us to play there, but we can't. The facilities, there just isn't enough room around it. There's a huge amount of work needs doing to the stadium, and we did agree that we would try to work together in whatever form that might take. But realistically, I don't think that is going to be a venue that we can use.